Welcome back, everybody. My name is Lucas, and I tear down VR apps, games, and experiences to help you build better virtual reality. Today, I'm going to go over why AltspaceVR, in my opinion, is doomed to fail. AltspaceVR is a virtual reality social meeting space. Altspace has dozens of events, games, classes that are always going on. There are places to go, you can create your own worlds, and invite friends to hang out with you in virtual reality. With that said, what they set out to do is not really what they've built, unfortunately. There's a ton that I was really hoping AltspaceVR would let me do and enable me to do that unfortunately just falls flat. Now, there's a lot of things that I'm going to go over. This is actually the longest teardown that I've done thus far, but it's only because as much as I want Altspace to do well, there's so many things on the user experience side of it that just make it frustrating. You have no idea how many times I've just been banging my head against the wall at little things that they could just do right. There's just so many missed opportunities. Just as a reminder, I break down all of these apps, games, and experiences based off of a particular criteria that I've created, and it's called VR is someplace. And that includes things like visuals, interactivity with other players, the environment, exploration, controls, physics, and more. You can read more about that on my article that I've linked below. And if this is your first time here, go ahead and like and subscribe so that you can see more of these teardowns. Lastly, I do all of the testing on my Oculus Quest. With that, let's go ahead and dive on in. I've already done the onboarding for Altspace, but I have started off in my room, quote unquote, that is given to me as part of my Altspace account. Now, in terms of the visuals, the visuals are actually decently well done, in my opinion. I mean, they're obviously cartoonish, but the space is filled. It feels lively in here. If I can say that. You know, the lighting from the outside is nice and bright. It is a dawn of the day. You know, we've got that nice amber glow that's coming in. The shadows of the space around me are reflected nicely. I've got some reflections on the windows. The colors are vibrant, but not too vibrant, and they're obnoxious. There's a lot of little things and colors that are going on. Even the guitars have a little bit of shadow on there, as you can see. The lights for each object that is producing light does it really well. It looks as though these are actually producing a little bit of lighting. As you can see here, these lamps produce light. There's a nice feel to the environment, and that's really what the visuals and the lighting do a lot of the times, is that feel immediately on the visual experience. So as I'm walking outside, I can actually hear some sounds of cars. I'm going to be quiet so you can hear it. So you can hear the sounds of the cars that are going by now, and I know that I'm on the 50th floor of this building. However, I would imagine that there would be more sound to this space, because if I'm just standing here, it doesn't sound like anything's kind of going on. You did hear the bird that just cooed. That's a nice little touch. So there are the sounds that I would expect, but they're not happening frequently enough to give me that sense of activity and engagement that I would really like. So let's explore some of the other environments that are available. So these are featured hub spaces. So I like the campfire one in particular, and it looks like there's 38 people that are there now. So let's go ahead and enter. Ooh, looks like there's a lot going on right now. Hey, can you actually hear me, by the way?
I can hear you, yes.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so it can actually, so AltspaceVR can actually capture my audio, and you can hear it while I'm recording right now.
So you're recording video?
I am. I'm actually doing a...
Is it directly on the Quest?
It is.
Okay. Oh man, wow, and it's not overtaking your mic. That's cool. Maybe
Yeah.
they changed something in the updates. I know some of the apps, yeah, it overtakes the mic. And I don't know if you knew, but also Space audio is what is it, proximity based. So the further you are from someone, the softer they get. Yeah.
No, I'm actually, it's funny you say that because I'm actually literally in the process right now as we're talking of doing a user experience teardown of AltspaceVR. So, no, it's interesting that being one of the audio aspects of Altspace. All right, so in terms of the interactivity, you can kind of see from my little bit of gameplay there. I'm actually going to mute myself. Cool. That was actually a nice little tooltip there. I actually liked the fact that it gave me that option. I hadn't seen that before, but that was a nice improvement for sure. Hey man, how are you?
Hey, can I play a song?
Sure.
Okay, just hold on one second. Okay, that's the most of it. Do you like it?
I thought it was catchy, yes.
Okay, cool, thanks. Bye.
So talking about some of the interactivity, that was a weird interaction in my opinion. And in terms of you can see how I've wanted to shake hands with these individuals and talk with them and do some things more than just kind of sit there and listen to them talking. Which unfortunately there's little activity to be done between players. So looking at the space, again, you can kind of see that, there's a nice skybox image that's in the background, and you can tell it's an image because my cursor kind of just ends at a certain spot. But it's very well lit, nice shadows, nice colors. The space feels like I'm in a snow-covered city. A little park that I would be in, a snow-covered park. The visual lighting gives me that liveliness. Now there's a bunch of people that are around. As you can see, there's a fire that's kind of going on over there. But aside from that, unless there's people in this space, there's not a lot of activity that is to be had. Let's go to another space and just look at some of the visuals again. So looking at this space here, again, you can kind of see that we've got now, it is nighttime. We've got lighting in terms of the city lights. There's a couple of lamps, but even the balls have shadow around them. The bench has a little bit of shadow against the legs. There's nice material that's here on the ground. There's material on the walls. There's some graffiti that's there. There's some nice, very slight texture patterns on the trees. So ultimately, the visuals of these spaces are quite nice, I would say. I mean, again, they're very cartoonish, so it's hard to suspend disbelief in an environment that I kind of, have an expectation of what a city would feel like. But regardless, the space for what it is a nice space, and the visual aspect of the space is quite nice. There's some activity that's going on in the background there that kind of gives some activity. So on the visual side, I really, I think it's okay. It's pretty decent. There's nothing that's ridiculous about it. One of the last visual things that I will say is that the avatars are odd, in my opinion. Now, the option to choose between avatars like this makes a stark difference between the different types of characters, and so it's kind of weird in my opinion. Now I know things like VR chat have thousands of different characters that you can be, but for the most part this is kind of odd. So that was visuals. Let me just start getting into some of the stuff that infuriates me. Menus. This is the one thing about Altspace that freaking kills me on the inside. Everything is a menu. Now, even if I go to the menus, I get another menu for my controllers. That's ridiculous. I don't know why these aren't just my hands. I can figure this stuff out as I'm just playing around. And this turning and scrolling feature, so these menus are also atrocious. In terms of scrolling, as you can see, if I try to scroll across and I go past the thing, it just cuts out. So I have to very slowly and carefully scroll across to actually get to the menu that I want to. Then, first off, I've got a giant flat screen menu here with very tiny text. This is a lot of small text that I wish I could get closer to, and I can't even move. So I'm literally not allowed to actually move towards the menu to actually see it better. And the other weird thing is this menu actually follows me around. I don't understand why this menu is following me. It should just be there, and I can turn my head and get it out of the way if I don't want to look at it anymore. And these controls still being here is kind of ridiculous. I swear to God, did somebody just show up into my space? Okay, it looks like somebody did show up in my space, which is kind of weird because I don't want to talk to them. Whatever. All right, so you can see there's two other menus. These menus follow you around everywhere, and we can literally look at each one of these. This is a menu to mute myself. This is a menu to send an emoji, which gives me another menu to send an emoji. This gives me a bubble that I guess puts a bubble around me, but I can literally see no action from doing that. So that button's kind of useless for me. The camera feature, instead of literally letting me have a camera, it just takes a picture for me and it saves it to the gallery. Nice. Kind of a useless feature. Then the browser. I don't know why I needed browser in AltSpace, but regardless, when I'm here, I wanted to close out of this and it just clears the thing. It took me forever to realize that I have to go, and I gotta close this, and I gotta go all the way down here to close this browser. Very unintuitive menus. If I go back to the browser here and I open this, I get these sticks that I have to reach out to. And there's a little bit of haptic feedback, but the haptic feedback doesn't happen over the keyboard as I would imagine. So like I'm hovering and it's not happening how I want it to. So I'm just gonna hit done, and I really, this menu, okay, if I hit done, it doesn't close out of it. So I gotta close out here. So these menus are really silly. The big menu here, as I said earlier, is really silly because all of these options that are available, so many options. And the thing that kills me is that I can't even search for events that are going on. All right, I'm gonna move over here so he's not distracting me. The only good thing that I can say about the menu system is that there are hundreds of options. So everything is controllable. Now, all of this stuff a lot of it is, in my opinion, questionable at best, like items, audio. I don't know why these things aren't grouped together and why, I even need some of these from a menu perspective, but they're there. And in terms of the comfort and being able to adjust the settings, these are all actually quite nice in my opinion. So the only good thing about the menu system is that it gives you hundreds of controls over what's kind of going on. Maybe not hundreds, but dozens of controls over what's going on. If I try to adjust my avatar, as you can see, I get another menu system that I have to point and click at. So I'll do head, and then here I gotta choose hair, and then I have to look over. It's like all of these menu options are so ridiculous. It's like, why not just bring this closer to me? It's first off way too far away. I know I'm muted. I'm not trying to talk to you. I can see people that are my friends that I've got here online. This is another one. Why is this not just a scroll menu? I've got to click on the menu. Pretty silly in my opinion. Let's see here, people in this space. Charnard. I guess Charnard is one of my friends. Let me talk to him real fast. Hey, man.
Hey.
Sorry, I wasn't ignoring you. I was just, I'm making a video right now, so I was muted. Are you eating the firework?
Maybe.
With these spaces that I can play videos, which again gives me another menu system that I can choose from the music, and that I can do, let's just say, nonstop music 24/7. Nice. Disco rave. There's also some host tools that I can look at, this host panel, which lets me control the guests that are in technically my space, but menus, another menu. So I've got a menu here that opens up a menu that opens up a menu. Great, I gotta close that with point and click. I can go to the world editor that brings up another menu that has items in here that are so odd. So I can go to the interactables that I'd love to do, but in order to, okay, so I have to grab it with the grip tool here. Once I grab it, I can place it and then I can close, and now I'm flying, so I guess I gotta get out of editor mode. So I gotta get out of edit mode, and then close that. So now it's available, but God, it's just so ridiculous a lot of the times on the menu system on how things work. Let me just show you this as well. So I've got a desk that's in here. So let me select, oh, I guess I can't select the desk. Okay. What the hell? Okay, so you can see these control systems. Okay, so I can move with this one though? And now I gotta bring this up to close out of that one. So I can actually grab the menu, but I had no idea that I could grab it with the grip tool and move it around. But it just moves it in relation to this HUD menu, this heads-up display that's already here, which is kind of silly because I'd like it for it to just stay in place there, but that's not gonna happen. Now, if I pull it towards me, it comes, but then it's just oddly confusing. So these are all just really weird actions that don't make any sense with the menu system. And you can see I was incapable of placing this desk here because it's ridiculous. So I'll try to place another desk. I'm gonna go to, what was it, basics. Also, these have no tooltips whatsoever. No meaning behind any of these. Selecting these don't do anything. I can delete it, but if I go to basics, I don't know what these do. I can go to kits, which let me grab some interactables, which I was trying to get to, but I don't want that actually. I want home. Okay, yeah, so here, I can get a bench, but when it pulls it, that's the size of it, which is why. I don't get that. So I have to go to the settings on the bench, and then I have to change the scale to 1 to hit done. Oh, no, don't hit done. Close out of it. Okay, close out of it, confirm, and then it's the right size. So now I can move this out of the way, and I can put this down. It's just silly in what needs to be done. So close out. I got to exit edit mode, and then I can close out of it. So the world building functionality is just ridiculous. Okay, so let me talk about the interactivity of the environment. In the environment, there's not a ton that can be done. There's some paper toss games there. There's this dart game that's here, and that's about it. There's a portal to go to another world, and I can kind of walk around. There's a portal to exit to the street, but I can stand on this, but that looks silly. I can't interact with any of this with my hands. All the interaction with the environment is entirely point, click, and grab. Looks like there's another paper toss that's here. But so there's Velcro dots and there's paper toss, and that's it. There's not really much else in the environment that I can do. I can't even walk over here, which is kind of silly. And I can't grab the markers. They don't let me write on the board at all, so there's no interactivity there. And the space itself is so small. There's not really much to discover in the space either. In terms of the actual environment, this is it. I mean, I can walk around and I can interact with there's nothing much to do there. So the discovery on that front is pretty sad. And unfortunately, the aspect about a social virtual reality application is that I want to be able to communicate with other people, interact with them, and make new friends and do activities. These activities are so boring and blasé. I have no drive or motivation to actually interact or learn from these people or get to know them from the games and activities. One of the things that I recommend would just be having some prompts, some conversation starters that would be fun just to kind of talk to each other about, ask questions, learn, where are you in the world? Where, what brought you here? When did you get your virtual reality headset? These little things are kind of the interactivity with players that doesn't really happen. And you can see, he's gone because he just teleported away. See, in terms of the teleportation, the signals and cues, there's no social signaling as to what's going on. I can't shake their hand. I can't fist bump. Fist bumping doesn't do anything. I can teleport, and his hands are all wonky over here. So it's just very odd in general as to what's going on. It doesn't make any sense. And so it's very frustrating from a not only a player's perspective, but somebody that wants to get involved and wants to engage and interact and say hi and play with these people and, learn where they're from. Even waving. It'd be lovely if waving just did something. Even if it was, a little bing or whatever the case may be.
You have a good point there.
Oh, are you listening to me? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh.
we
shit.
can hear you.
Oh, I thought I was muted. Whoops.
Oh no, we can hear you.
But you do have a really great point. We can't, do much with our hands.
Yeah.
Grab, throw, barely
I mean,
handshake.
I wish that we at least had arms.
Arms would be nice,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just randomly floating cans.
I'm going to now mute myself because I'm going to curse a little bit, so. Okay.
I'm fine with
You think we
cursing.
care? We really don't care. I guaranteed it.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. So I'm entering a community-created world. This is a space that one of the other players had apparently made. So I can jump on these trampolines, which is already giving me motion sickness. So this is a user-created world, and as you can tell, these user-created worlds don't really have a lot of criteria behind what constitutes a user-created world. It's kind of silly. There's not a lot that's going on. There's some, basketball and the trampolines, which are nice, but aside from that, it's just kind of an empty park where people can come in here. So I've kind of figured out what this whole place is in the matter of 10 seconds, and if there's nobody here, I don't really care to do anything. So I would ultimately leave. But let me run down some of the last little pieces here. So let me do controls. As I mentioned before, a lot of the controls are all point and click, which isn't bad in itself. It's just that combined with everything else, the controls feel bad. And as you can tell, there's a lot of activity that you can do with the controls, but at the same time, I don't need the tooltips like this in this regard, because I'd rather just have my hands, and I'd love to just grab and mess with things in the space as it is. On top of that, the controls are decently fluid. There's some odd things, like when I grab the basketball. So if I grab the basketball here, it does float to me. Okay, now it's starting to work. I guess it just took a second. But if I throw it, let's say here, and hit the backboard, I can't grab it out of the air, which is a little disappointing. I'd love to just, okay, there we go. Oh, you can see how, okay, well there it's gone now. So even those controls are odd and just, it's just disappointing to say the least. Talking about the physics, even as you can see here from the physics of the trampoline, the jumping just feels, first off, it's giving me motion sickness almost instantly, but it just doesn't feel natural in terms of the jumping. And you can tell even here that his jumping is kind of, just this float up and down. There's not really a actual jump to it. The trampoline doesn't even do anything. It doesn't move. It's just there that gives a dynamic motion to the individual. So, it would be nice if the actual trampoline looked like a trampoline, but that would be, I guess, too much to ask for. In terms of exploration, I've already showed you 90% of what AltSpace has to offer. I can go to, the Discover and schedule some of these classes or events that are going on. So like the Taco Party, I don't know what that is. Holograms Against Reality. I've actually been wanting to play, so let me jump in here. So it looks like this is a game of Cards Against Humanity, which is a fun game, but this space is, I don't know what's going on here. I guess I just gotta pick the cards, click the white cards to show them, confirm the winner at any time. So when the Pharaoh remained unmoved, Moses called down a plague of disco fever, Santa Claus, Hillary Clinton's death stare, incest. Hillary Clinton's death stare is the winner. Alright, so I'm out of the game, but this is the space for the game. And okay, here's a little interesting little nook that goes to nothing. Well, let's see. Yep, just goes to this little observatory space where you can see, again, a whole lot of nothing. So it's kind of a pointless little nook here. I didn't actually go over as much as I'd wanted to. Ultimately, the interactivity with player to player is really low. The interactivity with the environment is low. There's not a whole lot to explore. There's not a whole lot to participate in, aside from the options that are available here. There's a god-awful number of menus, and it's just insane. And the lag, I actually noticed, is pretty bad in a lot of places. That, you know, I don't get motion sick easily, but this is, I've slowed down the actual turning and motion to reduce the chances of motion sickness, but the lag in the actual frame rate can be pretty bad at times. And the fact that this menu like follows me around is kind of silly as well. I wish I could just turn it off at certain times, but it's just not helpful. And if anything, it gets in the way. The controls are not bad, but it doesn't let me do very much, and everything's menu driven. I end up spending more times with the menu than I do in doing the things that I want to. Overall, for a social virtual reality application, there's very little social about it, and there's very little interactivity about it, and there's not very much to explore. And so ultimately, Altspace did a lot of stuff, but none of it well, in my opinion. And I would highly redo a lot of this to really improve the user experience. The last two things that I wanted to mention were actually part of the onboarding that you didn't really get to see. But with the onboarding, it kind of walks you through this space here and has you interact with the basketballs and then the fireworks. After that, it has you, it doesn't actually require you to, but you can go to this info zone here that is a space on, well, is it not going to let me, okay, there it goes. Of people that gives you more information. And then there's also every single day, there is it must have happened already today, but there is a Altspace 101 that helps you understand what you can do in Altspace. And sometimes it's 40 minutes long, and it's just ridiculous. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys can see the lag that's happening on my headset, but it is really bad, especially when this menu is open. Anyway, this is a social application that I think will die quite quickly. As soon as Facebook Horizons comes out, from what it looks like is going to be available, this Altspace is going to have their lunch eaten, especially because this user experience is so bad. I mean, even let's look at this. You know, for the total number of people, so 9, 15, 25, 52, plus, what, a handful, 38, 1. So it literally looks like there might be less than about 100 people that are on right now, which I know it's Tuesday, but there's nothing that brings people back. There's not. I mean, I'm only here because I'm doing a teardown of this actual experience. You know, there's just not a whole lot to do. There's not a whole lot to, you know, communicate with. There's not even a whole lot of events that are going on. I mean, if anything, Altspace should be providing events on an ongoing basis that actually look appealing, because these titles actually don't look all that interesting. I don't know what's going on here. These images don't really convey anything. These space images convey a lot more, but really what's driving people being in a space is that number right there, 39. So, I mean, even if there were just, you know, as silly as this sounds, but bots that walked around that, you know, communicated with you and, you know, gave you prompts or, you know, gave you tips and things to do, or gave you, you know, let you discover new things by giving you, you know, assets or something. They could give you a, you know, key that unlocks a door that you could go into, or a new, you know, secret private room that, you know, nobody knew it existed. There's just so much, again, to be desired with Altspace that I'm hoping gets resolved either in the future or just with another application, because there's a lot that could be done. It's just disappointing overall. So that was AltspaceVR. This will obviously be accompanied by an article. There'll be a link in the description below. Really, you know, I've played Altspace, you know, a handful times now, and it's just one of those things where I'm only coming back to see if it's improved because I want it to work so desperately, but the user experience behind it is just terrible. While there are, a handful of things that are done decently well, the visuals I think are really done well. The controls were done pretty good. Just the interactivity with the environment kind of killed the controls that I was hoping for. The physics is okay, minus the jumping around. So there's some aspects that are decent, but when it really comes to a virtual reality application, this just isn't it. And it's not something that I want to keep doing. And this will probably be one of the last times that I'm in Altspace, unless there's just a meetup that's happening that I really want to go to that's happening in Altspace. But other than that, Altspace is not the place that I would want to go to hang out. It's just there's not enough to do, and the user experience is just so bad. The ultimate immersion score that I have to give Altspace is basically an F. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. A social application needs to have social features. There needs to be fist bumping and high fives. There needs to be games and prompts that engage people like you are at an actual conference. There needs to be social cues. When people are teleporting, they need to have something that lets me know that they've disappeared and they're appearing somewhere else. There needs to be audio cues that lets me know when someone's talking or not, because seeing and knowing who's talking is not easy to do. Their mouths don't move as much as in real life. There also needs to be exploration. I will say that Altspace does an okay job of, putting you in a position or a place in the space to kind of, look at it and learn where you are. But the space is so small, there's not a lot to explore. And so exploring that with others is, not really something that really happens. Ultimately, I wish Altspace was the application for actual social virtual reality, but it's not going to cut it. Other applications like Rec Room or VR chat seem to be the place where people are going to actually have social virtual reality. And with Facebook Horizons on the horizon, I have a sneaking suspicion that Altspace is going to basically disappear. But with that, thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more. If you had any comments, questions, or concerns, let me know. Until next time, game on!